Hello everybody, I am the Worm, this is Raging Loop, and I am here for what will either be an intermission or a finale. I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll talk about that as we get to it. We have reached the inevitable stopping point thus far in our playthrough here, in my playthrough. And so I felt this would be a good time to give my thoughts on the game thus far, on the story, on the characters, where I think we're going, all that good stuff. We're gonna cover it all today. And then probably near the end, we will enter into a discussion of whether or not we should continue. I'll definitely be asking for other people's opinions there, and just give a few thoughts of my own. In any case, how are you guys? Are you all doing alright? I hope you are. I don't know where it is, or excuse me, I don't know what it's like in your particular part of the world, but I know for me, we went from summer directly to winter here. We didn't really have a fall, so it has suddenly become very cold, and so I'm just bracing for that very quick change. I gotta get used to it again, but nevertheless, I shall get used to it because I have to. Raging Loop. How do I even want to begin talking about this? Well, I guess I can say what drew me first was the art style. That's actually pretty consistent for me. One of the first visual novels I ever read was The House in Fata Morgana, and that was purely because I liked the artwork on the screenshots that I saw, and obviously the description. In this, it was a similar sort of thing. I saw the description, I saw the artwork, and I think when I originally bought it, it was around October, so around spooky month. So I thought it to be seasonally appropriate, and I picked it up then. And then of course I didn't touch it for a year or two, I think, and that's mostly, well, I don't know if I had a reason for not playing it, but in any case, just starting up this channel and starting to do Let's Plays finally gave me the push I needed to get to playing it, and so I'm glad I have. And I'll start by saying this. This has been a pretty good VN for me. I like the atmosphere. I like pretty much most of the characters. And this mystery has me very intrigued. We will get to that in particular. We do actually have here, if I go into album, we do have some visual aids here. This will help me stay on track, I think. There's quite a lot of pictures we still have to go through. So yeah, general outlook, very positive thus far. And I'll definitely be finishing this whether or not I continue it as a Let's Play, so excited for that. So let's talk about the story. Let's get into that. We play as our boy here, Haruaki. He's as far as I know, I don't know if he's from Tokyo or if he just goes to school at Tokyo. But he's a city guy. He's the modern man. He's self-reliant, he's intelligent, he's skeptical, And I like him. I think I should probably save the character talk till later. So let's stay on track here. Haruaki, our protagonist, seems to be going through a breakup, and whether it is for that alone or if it's just part of the reason, one of the reasons he's decided to go on a little road trip, just to clear his head and get away from it all for a while. And that has unfortunately led him to the rural town of Yasumizu, which unfortunately for him seems to be in the throes of a supernatural killing game. Don't you just hate it when that happens? You go for a road trip and suddenly you're dropped into hell for a few weeks. It's a pain, but we got to deal with it. In any case, he meets quite a few. Well, he meets all the villagers. In particular, he meets Jamie, a young girl around his age, a few years younger, I believe. She's also a college student, but she is from the area. She's not from Yasumizu, but she is from the area. And she is our guide and our, what would it be? Protector, advocate. She's on our side, basically. And she helps us navigate the strange customs that the local people have, all that sort of stuff. In any case, as we all know by now, we have this killing game that's going on. And it has a lot of strange and convoluted rules, and it's very reminiscent to the game Mafia and or Werewolf, which is, I'm sure, very intentional. But it's fun to try and figure this out just from the game alone, which is where I'm coming from, since I'm not a veteran of those games. I've not played the Werewolf or Mafia games before, so this is all pretty fresh for me. I'm sure if you have played those games, or quite a bit, you might have quite a different experience, because you would have realized very quickly that it's all a communication game. I know for me, because I like to consider a lot of different angles. And so I know from the first few nights, first few feasts, I was trying to I wanted to investigate, find some material evidence of what's been going on and that sort of thing, or what was the cause of death, all that sort of thing. But really, what we have to accept here is that's less importance than the communication game that's going on here. As we all know by now, we've gone through our first game, and the winners were Tai and Yasunaga. So we do have an example of what a winning team does. So I think that'll be very useful going forward. One thing I am excited for is for Haruaki to get in the game, which is what he said he's going to do. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think I've gotten a bit off track. Yeah, so we're Haruaki, we went to the village, met everyone, went through the killing game, all that sort of stuff. We have the mysterious looping powers. Unexplained how that came to be. At this point, the two different directions I see for where the looping powers came from, it's either Rokako, who keeps apologizing to us, although I could see her apologizing to us for another reason, which I might get into, or coming from Meiko. In particular, every time we go through a bad end, we see a sheep, and we know that Meiko, for several reasons now, is associated with the sheep. So the looping powers may come from her. And having said that, I think we can pretty firmly say at this point that this is not a mundane story. This is obviously very supernatural. Supernatural in nature. Not just because of the looping, but obviously because of the corruption and, that happened, this event here, where, Jimmy just sort of fell apart, which, I don't know. What would you even say if it were a mundane explanation? Oh, she caught the old flesh-eating virus, something like that. But this is pretty out there, right? Whatever this thing is. Yeah. I mean, this guy, this guy too. Unless what? What is it gonna be? Flesh-eating virus. Haru dressed up like that, or Takumi in a werewolf costume. I guess you could try to still spin this as mundane somehow, but I'm very doubtful of that at this point. Yeah, here's our place here. What do I want to talk about next? I have a list of things I want to discuss, actually. I mean, that's pretty much a good summary, right? I mean, we could get into the minutia of every... I'll talk about the characters separate. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's with Yasunaga, we have Saranaga. Excuse me, Yasunaga. We have Yasumizu, and we have the Saranaga. Saranaga is supposedly connected with Yomi. Here's some background that's important. The mountain itself is sacred. It's Shinai-sama. Shinai-sama is Lord of the Mountain, and Lord of the Mountain has his own rules, and the whole feast system lies within that. Yeah, because I looked back over a couple of different episodes of mine just to get the story straight. So let's get this straight. Yasumizu is going through what is known as the Yomi Purge. And here's something that's very important, and this is going to be one of my theories going forward. This whole game that we're playing, this killing game, there are two competing stories for its origin. We heard one very early on, and after finishing this after finishing the main first route, we learned the second story. They're both very similar. It goes something like this. The Lord of the Mountain, Shinai, he has laws, of course, and the people who live on the mountain or at the mountain need to follow the laws. And in return, he sent guardians to help and aid the people. They are right here. We got crow, snake, monkey, spider, wolf. And each of them had a specific role. Like, one of them helped the crops, and I can't remember specifically that, but, all beneficial to humanity, essentially. And we know that the main families in Kamifujiyoshi, which is the sort of upper town where more people live and are more well-off than Yasumizu. Yasumizu was originally created by exiles, essentially, from Kamifujiyoshi. But they both are all under the laws of the mountain system. Anyway, the main families of Kamifujiyoshi are supposedly descended or related to each individual. Guardian. We know the Uematsu are the spider. What was the... I actually think I wrote down what the others were. Hang on. I have 8 pages of notes here. Here we go. Snake was Miguruma, monkeys were Higuchi, and the crow was Nosato. Now, I do think it's interesting how... Did we ever get a family for the wolves? I don't recall us ever hearing that. Because it's the 4 families, right? There's not a 5th one? That could be something. In any case, we have these guardians. And then, so both... That's pretty much where the story ends for Kama Fujiyoshi. Shinai-san, his laws, his guardians. That's it. However, in Yasumizu, the story then becomes the wolves betrayed Shinai-sama and joined with Yomi, which is personified by the river Saranaga. They joined the Yomi and the Yomibito, the Yomibito being some kind of undead spirits of some sort. And thus were a menace to the people of Yasumizu. And so, the Feast of the Yomi Purge emerged as a means for the people, with the aid of their guardians, to kill the wolves, send them back to Yomi, and restore peace, or what have you. Now, so that's the Yasumizu version. We got a separate version given to us by the wolves themselves. Supposedly, Shinai-sama, I'm not sure if it was in a dream or just somehow told them, the 2 wolves, that actually it is the reverse. It turns out that the 4 guardians are the ones who betrayed Shinai-sama and joined with Yomi, while the wolves remained steadfastly loyal. And so the Feast of the Yomi Purge is actually meant to be the wolves purging Yasumizu of the Yomibito, which are meant to be the villagers in this version. So obviously just a direct sort of reversal there. So one of my theories here is that whatever's going on with these 2 stories, I don't think either of them are correct. I think that there is a true story here, but I don't think either of them are the whole picture. And part of that, I believe, has to deal with Mako. She gave us, at one point, she drew many animals on the ground, including herself. I believe that Mako is probably associated with the sheep. And in one of the poems we heard, a poem, nursery rhyme, what have you, we heard about a badger. So I'm thinking, for whatever reason, the true story has been obscured or lost or misunderstood, and it's more complex, or something's missing here. And I think Mako's a good portion of that. And because for whatever reason, we have Haruaki getting these powers, and there's no looping mentioned in either story. So I'm thinking, something's missing here. Now, I'm not sure what that means for everyone else. Part of what I'm thinking is, I have this written down here. Let me see. Okay, I have something written down here called the Kama Fujiyoshi Conspiracy. And so, part of this isn't really directly related to the idea that the two stories are both wrong, but I think it could be part of it. In the Kama Fujiyoshi conspiracy idea is that it's basically the four families, maybe five, are hiding something or might be responsible for all this in some way. And I find it very interesting that it seems like right before we hit our roadblock here for playing the game, that Haruaki was going to Kama Fujiyoshi. So I'm very curious about what answers we could glean from visiting that place first. So essentially, the Kama Fujiyoshi conspiracy is something like the 4 or 5 families, I'll just say 4 families, have hidden something away, or they might be causing whatever it is to be happening, because we know they don't like Yasumizu. And yet they do know that what's going on because, I mean, Rokako and Nosato both knew about it. I think Rokako constantly apologizes. This is the other thing about Rokako. If she's not apologizing for causing Haruaki's looping powers, Rokako might be apologizing because she might in some way be responsible for whatever this situation is. And that might be this sort of conspiracy where I don't know if they're in league with Shinai-sama or against him in some way. I want to think that they're somehow the cause of this in some way, the 4 families. Now, does that mean that the Guardians are the Yomibito and thus the wolf story is the one that's true? Not necessarily. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and I'm very curious about this Shinai-sama. Because both sides have claimed Shinai-sama's on their side, you know? Is Shinai-sama even real? If Shinai-sama is real, which side is Shinai-sama on? And then there's a question of why have the Feast of the Yomi Purge in the first place? I mean, it would seem very cruel for this to be some elaborate thing for Kama Fujiyoshi to get rid of the exiles more permanently. Like, why go through all this weird all this elaborate setup, you know? It's I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting how we never got to see the crow in action, unfortunately. What was this one? This is crow, this is spider, these are the wolves. I don't remember where this picture came from. Oh, these are the family crest. This is Higuchi, right? So that's Uematsu. What were the other ones? This has to be Nosato, right? Uematsu, Nosato. That's Higuchi. So this has to be Snake, Miguruma. What do these arrows mean, you think? I have a picture of the... Where's the picture of the Higuchi? Yeah, Higuchi. Interesting. So the Higuchi crest is just this. It doesn't have these arrows. So what does this mean? Higuchi are which again? They're two monkeys. Oh, I think this is... I see. Oh, so these arrows are... So yes, the crow... Okay, so this is the kill the person, this is the dead person. The crow, you know, tells us who the dead person was. Spider protects from wolves. Snake checks for wolves. Two monkeys know each other. I see. Okay, fair enough. So just an illustration of the rules here. Interesting. Is there anything I want to talk about? Anything else about the story? I mean, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see where this goes. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think on things to speculate on, and it's really just... If you guys have anything else you want to speculate on, feel free. We can talk about this. It's fun to do so. Is this thing Shinai-san or an avatar of Shinai-san? Don't know. Where do you think the looping comes from? What's your thoughts on the stories we got? Where do you think it's going from here, you know? I'm curious. I want to know, because currently that's kind of all I have at the moment. It's speculating on where the looping comes from on the stories. And I guess... See, because I don't even know where to begin with Shinai-sama. Because both sides are claiming him, you know? And part of what trips me up here is, I guess, this. The part where Chemi fell apart. She seemed to think that, oh, she ate the food and thus belongs here. And so obviously she couldn't leave. And so she fell apart. But here's the thing, isn't Chemi, she's a college student too, right? So she's obviously left the village before. It's just on this night of all nights, this is what happens. And does this happen because she was near the Saranaga, or just leaving in general? I don't know. I don't know. Well, unless something else pops up for me... let me look at my notes again. Let's talk about the characters, shall we? Let's get into that. First of all, favorite characters so far. I do like Haruaki as a protagonist. I do gotta say that. I must say that. He's very much ahead of me. He's doing 4D chess with Yasunaga while, you know, I'm losing at checkers. That's how I feel. But he has his convictions. And, you know, gotta admit, brave of him to step up, you know. He doesn't really have a choice, in a sense, but even still, I like that his motivations for stepping up seem to be pretty good, because, you know, we're in his head, so we get his thoughts. I also really like Mochi. Mochi was, and that was a kind of a surprise for me. I didn't really have any expectations, but I really liked how clever and how he could see like to the heart of the matter very quickly. So I'm not even surprised that he was killed relatively quickly. Yeah, here's a question for everyone. Obviously, if you've played the game, you know this already. Yeah, okay, hang on. Before we get to the rest of the character talk, here's something that I'm curious about. How do we think... Because we didn't go through... We know who the wolves are by the end of the first main route. But they didn't go into detail about, you know, each and everything they did. So here's one question for you. How did Old Man and Mochi get killed? Was it some sort of thing where they killed each other, or I think Haruaki had a theory at one point that Rikako was forced to kill them, and thus she fell prey to the corruption. So let's add Rikako onto that. So what do you guys think happened for Mochi, Old Man, and Rikako that night? Because remember, Tai said that after it was discovered what happened to Rikako and she got zombified, Tai said, oh, she was taking in so much corruption from doing something. I'm not sure I recall exactly what she said. But now we have to treat everything Tai says with suspicion, considering she was on the opposing team the whole time. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. Because considering the fact that the corruption is a real phenomenon that'll happen if you break the rules, gotta assume that the wolves didn't actually break any rules and were somehow still able to get 3 people out of the way in one night. Mochi, Old Man, Rikako. No, was that also when Takumi was taken out? They got rid of 4 people in one night, essentially. Or one day/night. That's crazy. Yeah, so if you have any thoughts about that, let me know, because... Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. They did it somehow. And without further... I guess it doesn't matter, maybe. Maybe it doesn't matter. The only thing I'm curious about, I guess, for that is, regardless of how Mochi and the Old Man died, it's Rikako's fate that's just odd. You know? She wasn't torn to pieces. She got zombified. How does that work? Yeah, it's the weird sort of seeming inconsistency with the rules sometimes that gets me. There has to be some stuff we don't understand or don't know yet. In any case, let's get back to characters. So Haruaki's really great. Mochi's really great. Chami's pretty good too. I did like her. I liked how she was our advocate. I said this a couple times throughout my playthrough, but I was surprised when it turned out Chami, you know, who's the college girl who leaves town, when she was more believing and cautious of the village's traditions than Takumi, the guy who lives there, you know, much more. But that's not necessarily... I mean, she apparently... It's weird, though, right? Because her reason for believing that so much was because she saw God, I guess. Which we're assuming... is this, right? I think I asked this question at the time. Is this the God that she normally sees, or is this Shinai-sama? Are they one and the same? I don't know. It has the wolf symbol on it. Is this one of the wolves somehow? Do they shapeshift a lot? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a wolf, but maybe a messenger of Shinai-sama or something. I don't know. I should make this point clear. One thing I think we did learn about the wolves. I do believe we can say more be more certain that the wolves are people. The wolves are humans convinced of what they need to do. They're not. They're not that. This. The wolves of the game are villagers who have been convinced to kill their fellow villagers. Okay. And this was mentioned because I had been asking, what's the nature of the wolves? Are they shape-shifting creatures that have just taken a villager's place? Are they possessed? Are they, what's the deal? But I think we can be a bit more sure that they are the original villagers themselves who've just been convinced of the necessity of these actions. And this was summed up very well by a commenter, Sandy, I believe. And let's see if I could actually find it real quick. I need to find it. Let's see. Yes, here we go. Here's a comment from Sandy here. And I'm just gonna read it, the comment, because I think it's just phrased better than I could on the fly. So the comment here is, I think Haruaki has cemented his opinion that the wolves are not people possessed by spirits or replaced, but humans killing humans based on their indoctrination. So even if Yasunaga is a wolf, he still has his own base feelings that influence what he does. Yes, I agree. I agree with that. Which is very interesting. Very interesting. Speaking of which, let's talk about Yasunaga. I like him as our wolf antagonist. And the funny thing is, he was kind of the obvious antagonist. I mean, attention was brought to him pretty early on. And just because part of the idea is he would just be the most damaging one to be a wolf. That I think that was the part of the early speculation. Rokako herself said that in one of the feasts. But just his just how ruthless he was, and how he took advantage of all his interpersonal relationships to do everything. Yeah, he's a pretty terrifying opponent to come up against. Tai-san, she was alright. Definitely not a favorite of mine. Just kind of meh, I guess. It's interesting how I have to look back, because she's been our source of sort of the different stories thus far. Obviously, I don't think she's had to lie, about any particular thing that much, but I still think you have to be a bit more cautious about taking her word for things when we know she would be, she would have the motivation to keep you in the dark or to mislead you. Yeah. So let's go down the list. Haru. I did like Haru. I felt bad for her quite a few times. And she just gets toyed with. She loses her grandfather. She loses her friends. She gets this terrible dream about this terrible truth and tries to escape and fails and gets wounded, and then just she's just in this incomprehensible situation. I mean, they all are, but it's tough to... Well, I think this goes for Haru. This also goes for Chiemi, and then it especially goes for Kaori. It's tough to watch people break. And Kaori broke, Chiemi came very close to breaking, and Haru had some of that too, and it's just terrible. Kaori is also not a favorite of mine, but she had a lot of heart-wrenching moments. She lost Yoshitsugu, she lost Takumi, and eventually just her breaking and that whole scene, that was awful. That was awful to watch, to listen to. We had another conversation, where was it? I hope you don't mind if I say your name as well on here. Let me see. Amber, I believe. We didn't, I didn't mean to say this as a kind of definitive thing about Kaori, but I may have mentioned during the episodes how, maybe Yasunaga was pushing Kaori to break, and to try and kill everyone. And we don't really have... I don't think we have any solid evidence of that. I think it was more me voicing a possibility. And it's just such a terrible possibility to imagine, But I could see it. I could see Yasunaga doing that. Here's his mother, who's broken, and yet he's been convinced of, by this dream, prophecy, by Shinai-sama, whatever, that he needs to kill everyone. And so in order to do that, he plays into his mother's madness, and he says, yeah, Ma, you need to get revenge on all these people. It just... And giving her the opportunity. And it just... Again, we don't have any solid evidence of that. It would be another level of tragedy and murderous intent that would be quite sick to imagine. Ugh. Speaking of Yoshitsugu, we didn't get much of him. I imagine we're probably going to get more of him in another route. And I gotta say, I didn't really like him. I didn't like his disrespectful attitude. That more comes down to me personally. I don't like that kind of character. The kind of punk guy. But that's not to say he's poorly written or anything. I'm just saying, me as a person, I didn't like his just rude all the time attitude to people. So yeah, I didn't like him very much. But we know that he had some hidden depths. We know that apparently he really loved his mom, even if he didn't act that way. So hopefully we'll get to see that going forward. Who else? We had Takumi. Takumi was a very interesting character. Oh yes. He was at times our kind of rival in the village. He would always push back against us. He was suspicious of us. But he also very much cared for the villagers. He wasn't getting in our face for no reason. He had every reason to suspect us and to be protective of the village because of us. Um, he was our snake, and arguably made the first big mistake of the game by revealing that to people. But hey, we didn't know what we were doing, you know, we were all very new to the game. So I won't be too harsh on him for that. And, yeah, who else? We have Konzo, Haru's grandfather. Didn't get much of him either. I will be interested to see more of him. He got targeted by the wolves pretty early on because they guessed he was probably a guardian. We just didn't know which one he was. Did we had this conversation about who the spider was. Did we say it was maybe Konzo who was? Because it had to be... It might have been... We had a discussion about this in the game. I'm not remembering it right now. Did I write it down? I should have written it down if I did. If it was said. Let's see. Maybe I didn't write it down. Maybe I'm misremembering. But I'm curious to see what his sort of strategy would have been going forward. So I'll be looking forward for more Konzo too. There was the reporter lady and her cameraman. I really didn't get enough to get a read on them. You know, we may see more of them in the future. I'm curious. Now that Haruaki knows what's going down, what if there's a situation where it's not just him joining the feast? What if he gets the reporters in there too? That would be pretty cool. And hey, what if we get something crazy like, because we know the Guardians aren't bound by bloodline. What if we get a route where the one of the reporters gets a Guardian or something? I don't know. That sounds funny to me. Already talked about Tai. Nosato, Kiyonosuke. He's one of those characters that you kind of love to hate. You know, he was smug, he had an air of superiority. He had some good points, though. Well, I don't know what good points, but some interesting points. He seemed to have this strange familiarity with Takumi. I don't know if they were necessarily... I wouldn't call it friendship, but they had a kind of familiarity with each other that I thought was interesting. And he obviously had I guess I'll say crush on Rokako. So, you know, that's obviously something. One thing I'm curious to learn about is whether or not his crush on Rokako is the reason he's in Yasumizu. As in, it's not that he moved here to be with her, but he's forced to be here by the rest of his family because of his attachment to her. I think that's what the idea was. Who else is there? There's Rokako, who's very mysterious, and I want to know more about Rokako. I really want to know what she's been up to. You know, what caused her to zombify? What does she keep apologizing about? Because she's the head of the Uematsu family. She's not just part of the Uematsu family. She's the head. So she's got to know some crazy secrets. We just got to get them out of her. Meiko is all right. I mean, she didn't do much. She would just say meh quite a lot. So it's not like, but she did have a character. She was scared of a few of the different characters, had an attachment to Rikako. And I am definitely curious about whether or not she's actually a sheep. You know, that's something I do want to know. And I want to know whatever hidden history she seems to have knowledge of. We have Old Man Who Cried Wolf, of course. Who could forget him? I know he seems like a crazy sort of character, but I know he's going to have like some crazy bit of information or knowledge, or what if he's the descendant of the 5th family of the wolves? I don't know. Just, I know he's going to have some importance. He can't not have any importance. Just don't know what it is yet. I mean, Tai said, from her point of view, he was old and around even when she was young, so who knows? Maybe he's Shinai-sama. Maybe he's the dude. He's the man. Of course, that would mean Shinai-sama could just get shanked and die, so I don't think that works, actually. Yeah. But I mean, he kind of served as just comic relief at times. While also, randomly popping up to say, the wolves are coming. Is that everyone? I think so. I think that's everyone. Actually, I should have a list. Yasunaga, Yoshitsugu, Chikamochi, Haru, Kanzo, Tai, Takumi, Kaori, Kinosuke. Yuda Hashimoto was the photographer. Hisako Mami was the freelance writer. Old Man Who Cried Wolf, Rikako, Meiko. That's it. Yep. I think that's it. So yeah, those are the characters. I don't have a tier list or anything with me, but that's just my general thoughts on it. So I think that's pretty much most of what I wanted to talk about. I summed up the story a bit, gave my thoughts and a little bit of theorizing. So where I'm standing at this point, I'm thinking there might be a Kama Fujiyoshi conspiracy of some sort. Where Shinai-sama falls in all that, I don't know. Maybe there's a 5th family of wolves that we don't know about. And I think that the two stories are both inaccurate, and that there's a true 3rd version of the story that contains the truth of whatever it is that's going on here. Yeah, I think that sums it up. And I talked about the characters. Yeah, so let's see. How long have I been going? Yeah. Okay, so if you made it this far, congratulations. Hope you're still doing well. I'd like to devote these last few minutes to discussing whether or not we should continue this Let's Play on this channel. So, just to start out, as we all know, at the very beginning of the game, Rikako went ahead and requested that we do not stream or record past the point that we got to. And that seems to just be... I know this isn't the only game to do that. I know there are some other visual novels that have done that in the past. And I guess it's for, what would it be for? Just they don't want the spoilers to be on the internet? They don't want... I'm just trying to think of the reasoning behind that. Did Rikako give reasons? I might have to go back and look at the reasons they gave. In any case, part of the issue is they didn't give an expiry date to that request. They just said, you know, just don't do it ever, it seems. So I feel like I'm in a bit of a bind in which I don't really like the idea of, you know, stepping on anyone's toes. And so I do worry about that. The thing is, I don't know if there's any I mean, I doubt it, but I don't think it's not like there's any sort of legal thing here, right? Like, it's not if I uploaded an extra, you know, started doing the whole game, would I get a cease and desist letter or something? Like, I don't know if that's in the cards. Maybe it is. If there's someone here who knows more and you could let me know, that'd be great. Also, if I don't know where you'd look for this, but if they have changed their stance on this, because, I mean, part of this is the game originally came out in 2015. Maybe they've changed their stance since then, and I just don't know about it. If they've said it on on the internet somewhere, and you know about that, you could let me know. But yeah, I think in the last video I mentioned the game came out in 2019. Someone informed me in the comments, I can't remember who at the moment, that it was actually 2015 when it originally came out in Japan, and 2019 was the English translation. That was what I was recalling. So technically speaking, this game has been out for 7 years? Quite a lot of time for people to play it. So, you know, I'm late to the party. I will say that I personally would love to continue this Let's Play. Again, I just worry about those things I mentioned previously. So I would like to sort of give the floor to you guys. If you have any particular thoughts on whether or not it's okay to continue, I'd love to hear it. And of course, depending on whether or not I end up doing that, this will be either an intermission or a finale. Yeah. So basically, to sum up, my heart says continue game, but my mind says don't continue game. That's sort of where I'm at right now. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I've part of the reason why I said this a couple times. Part of the reason I started doing Let's Plays is I don't really know anyone who enjoys these sorts of visual novels, and so playing them on here on this channel has given me the opportunity to come across people who do in fact play and enjoy these kinds of games. So I count myself very lucky to be able to have your comments and thoughts. So I do look forward to that, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this as well. Regardless, I've been The Worm. This has been Raging Loop. And if this turns out to be the end of my Let's Play, I just want to say it's been great. This has been really good. And I would suggest to you all to play it yourself. If I do end up stopping here, I would advise you to play it yourself, because this does seem like a fun mystery that you can really dig into at your leisure. And certainly if I can't continue it on the Let's Play channel, I will continue playing it offline by myself, because I do want to know what's going on. But I would much love to finish it with you guys as well. So Hope you're all doing well, and I hope to see you next time for either more of this or my next Let's Play, which should be starting pretty soon. I need to free up some time. Things have been a bit busier lately. Yeah. So I think that's it. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.